Hello out there, and welcome to the No Shit Cast. I'm your host, Matt Frazier. Woo, got a special holiday delivered straight from the North Pole. Bunch of articles for us to talk about tonight. Santa swung by here. He's in a festive mood. Been drinking a lot. Big rosy red nose. Thank God those reindeer know where they're going, man, because if he actually had to drive, it would be carnage. That's all I'm saying. But anyway.
I learned that from the Amish.
Sitting in the co-pilot seat, as usual, none other than the Grey Wizard of Historical Knowledge himself, Mr. Eric D. Smith. How are you tonight, Mr. Smith?
I'm doing well, thanks.
Yeah, you look like you're doing well, huh? It's been, I don't know, pretty uneventful holiday season, I would say, overall. Everything seems to be moving along.
Yeah, traffic's a bit crazy.
Yes.
Aside from that, it's crazy, dude. It's like,
yeah, it is insane, isn't it?
Yeah, this is like a crappy old town. I don't even know why there's this many cars here.
I just like how upset people get about a 20-second delay or a 2-minute delay and things. It's pretty mind-numbing. It's like all of a sudden, my buddy Kent told me the other day, he said, it's strange, but Christmas seems more like a deadline than a holiday, you know? And in a lot of ways, for a lot of people, it kind of is.
Yeah.
It's getting everything packed in so that you can have those 2 days off. You got to get everything in your life done. You know, it seems like professionally and everything. It just seems to be more of a deadline for people than an actual
Makes me glad I ain't got a life.
Yeah, right? I feel the same way, right? I mean, I've compartmentalized down so much now that, yeah, it makes it pretty manageable.
Yep.
Stress-wise, for sure. You know, I don't know. I like it. We got any shout-outs or anything we need to do? Anything? Dan W.
Yeah.
Dan. Holy cow. You guys want to go check out a well-thought-out, completely well-written, I mean, he's...
Yeah. Very nicely done.
Yeah,
very
big time. This is on YouTube, folks. You can go check this out on the KSC-134 comments. Look at Dan W's comments on 134.
Disagreed most admirably. In fact,
He did. Yeah.
I thought he did a good job of explaining and having just a different opinion and stuff. And I intend on addressing that right off the top of the show.
Well, yeah, that's kind of cool, man. That's sort of the point, isn't it? We got a great feedback from him, a very, very well thought out feedback, and you're like, hey, man, let's have this discussion.
Sure, yeah, man, absolutely, yeah.
So, Dan, these first articles coming up here for you.
Yep.
I had a show question I thought would be kind of cool.
I'm sure Dan will tell us. About it.
Dan will tell us what he thinks, too, because he's not afraid to do that.
Good.
And do it well. Okay, so we've talked about a lot of emerging technologies, a lot of things that here in the last year that's coming up in science and technology and everything from CRISPR to, you know. So of all of the ones that you can remember that we've discussed, because there's so many, which is the one you're most looking forward to, and which one do you hope is the most likely to be like true or be vetted out if it's not already?
I would say probably CRISPR.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be that or well, you're talking about technology, not just discoveries, right?
Either or, yeah.
Like in the discoveries, I hope that they finally put a nail into the Philistine issue, them coming from the Aegean and being Greeks and stuff. Like, I hope that that's pretty much a settled thing for 2020 and onward.
Because of its humanitarian impact? Is that
to some degree, yeah, but mostly just because it's been one of those mysteries in history that people have debated about for a long time, and people have had careers trying to say or prove that this is a very valid theory and stuff. And so, I think that if we can put that behind us, then that's good, because that gives us a clearer picture of what was going on back in that time frame and
from which to base discoveries or anything else moving forward.
Yeah.
Or to reinterpret any reference to them historically.
Well, like
correct?
You were saying, in a humanitarian sense, calling somebody a Philistine has been a really derogatory term.
Right.
And also there's some confusion between who the Philistines were and the Palestinians.
Sure. Right.
And stuff.
Yep.
So having this to be clear might help undermine some of the arguments, that's been going on for a long time, which are just not valid.
I get that. Okay. So that makes sense to me. It's so clarity is kind of your whole point with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. In that particular case.
Yeah. Because it has a bit of an extenuating circumstances with how people react today toward those things and such. And of course, just being a fan of biblical history myself.
Yeah, big time. Right.
Anything that you're squaring away, I just love. But aside from that, it would be CRISPR. I mean, far more potential would be CRISPR and what it could do and stuff.
Yeah, it's probably that and graphene are the two things that probably have me the most turned on. Not to interject on your CRISPR. Yeah. I feel you with CRISPR for sure. I think that and now with CRISPR Prime, right, which is just an improvement upon CRISPR.
Yeah.
Even more precise, if that's a possible.
I get emails now since I've been on those websites.
Yeah, you were telling me that.
Yeah, it's funny. Every so often I get email on some deals for CRISPR and some proteins. I'm like, right on, okay.
Well, what kind of proteins can you get already?
I don't even know what they are, man. Like
it's just numbers and letters
and numbers, and I don't know because I'm not. I mean, it's only kind of like a passing interest for me. I'm not like really in my shed doing it.
Right.
So
you're not out there injecting it.
I'm not out making glowing dogs or nothing. I'm just.
We got it though, man. Okay. We still got that open invitation if anybody wants to donate to the Cloud Chamber.
Sure.
You can go to the No Shit Cast. There's a Patreon. There's a way to donate through Patreon. All that any money that gets donated there, we'll build the Cloud Chamber and we'll do it here in the studio and
then we'll kind of find a place for it.
I'm not trying to ho ho ho. But anyway, CRISPR is a big deal. But I think that material science breakthroughs like graphene and the discoveries with and uses for it are going to just continue to be huge revolutionary things.
And I see graphene being paired with all kinds of other things
already.
It's like already the cool big invention.
Yep.
Now for the future of 2020 is the question is what's it going to be used in and how is it going to improve that?
The thing that's got me most hard about graphene, and that's kind of a funny euphemism because it's one of the hardest substances. It's as hard as diamonds. It's a crazy, crazy durable material, right? But the whole concept of graphene supercapacitors, which are they have the ability to be charged like a capacitor, but then they store energy and discharge it like a battery, which is huge. It's huge in the sense of how fast it takes to charge electrical devices. And electric cars, one of the big drawbacks to them is the long charge time. Now, some of the electric car manufacturers have already started kind of addressing this, and I'm not really certain entirely. They're still using standard like battery technology, but I'm not sure what they're doing. It's got to be degrading the life of the battery somehow because that's just what happens. But anyway, this whole idea of these supercaps is enormous if you can pull this off, because things like solar and wind produce far more electricity on some days than they do on others. And they tend to produce electricity, like wind tends to produce electricity when the sun's coming up and hitting my mic stand, when the sun's coming up and when the sun's going down, which is not necessarily when you want to use it. So you need a sort of a way to capture it and then sell it back into the grid when the demands are high. That's when you make the most money anyway per kilowatt hour. It's how it's priced. So, but the material science stuff with graphene, like structural science things, it's 10 times the strength of titanium and half the weight, like bizarre, crazy stuff.
We get that space elevator cable going.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Well, and it has this ability, like there's the dude that does 1 hour energy, the guy that sort of owns 1 hour energy. He takes all the money he makes from 1 hour energy, well, a big chunk of it, but he does all these interesting philanthropic things with the money he makes from that energy drink. But one of the things that he's doing is figuring out he wants to drill these super, super deep holes and then run these graphene cables down into these holes to extract the heat and use it for geothermal power production. So that's like a project he's working on. That's how he's sort of so all those 1 hour energy drinks you buy.
Hey, I've never bought one, but I know a lot of people do.
Yeah, that love those things, those little shots.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's one of the things. There's something I think he's also doing with mass desalinization as well. There's a guy, like we talk about this all the time, that there's no problem that any country in the world or any civilization of people in the world that exist on the planet today that they're facing that we can't already solve. Like fundamental problem. Like we know how to get, we get tons of water. We just got to get the salt out of it. Like, and all of these things just take energy. So that's really the trick. But the technologies all exist already. It's we just got to
power it up and make it convenient.
Well, we got to find the give a shit. Okay, you got to find the give a shit and the necessity to do it. And I don't know. We've got the technology to do it already. The other piece of it is something I just can't get my head around. There are charity organizations. I mean, it's a complicated issue. If you watch, like Dean Kamen made that, he makes a water purification system that runs on about as much electricity as a hairdryer. So you can run it with solar panels, and it makes something like quarts of water per minute. And it makes, not just does it make quarts of water per minute, it makes like super, super purified water, like injectable quality. And it's about the size of a soda machine. So when they first got this thing where they could mass produce it, and it's not super expensive. I mean, there's they had to invent some shit to make this thing work, but they're readily deployable. But they couldn't find anybody that could actually help them get these things to the people that needed them. And ultimately, he had to go and team up with Coca-Cola because they have a distribution channel into these really extreme places. And because this thing's about the size of a soda machine,
they were able to hook
it up and get this thing distributed. But it was really shocking when you think about how. So what he came up with was this solution to making drinkable water for these incredibly remote areas and stuff for these people that are spending the majority of their day looking for drinking water.
Even if Coke is plentiful.
Right? So let's say you come along with a Dean Kamen style. It's the same guy that invented the Segway, right? Let's say you come along with a Dean Kamen style world-altering kind of thing. Because this kind of aid or this kind of methodology of fixing problems in these kinds of countries there's so few and far between. There's no one's done it. There's not even a path. You follow me? Like, because it just doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy, man. Like so that tells you that this is not something that there's just not much that when you really get down to it, fundamentally fixing the problems in these places, there's really just not much that gets down there to where people you would think need it the most.
Yeah. They're not maybe viable.
Well, he had to go team up with Coca-Cola, right?
Yeah.
To get a distribution network.
It's weird, like there's
not the State Department, not NATO, not UNICEF, it was none of these kinds of organizations or any of these things you would think would just be the natural place you would go.
Yeah.
No one could do it. So he goes to Coca-Cola and they're like, "Oh yeah, we go there."
we get sugary beverages everywhere, man.
That's crazy, right? But anyway, I'll get off my soapbox now. Sorry, everybody. It's a personal favorite topic of mine, right?
It is strange, man. I mean, I guess there's more of a demand for Coke there than there is clean water.
Well, that's, there's probably a better supply of Coke than there is clean water. Probably the same for alcoholic beverages too.
Yeah.
It is what it is. And like in the process of brewing, you kill bacteria. So like that whole, when in Rome or whatever, there's places you don't want to drink the water. So what do you drink?
Coke and alcohol.
Yeah, Coke and alcohol, right? All right. Well, I think we've sufficiently answered that question, right?
I think so.
You good?
Yeah.
All right, let's move on
Yeah.
to some articles, brother. Open up Internet Explorer here. Actually, what am I using? I don't use Internet Explorer. I use Google Chrome, I think. Okay, so in Dan's very well put response to us being jestful, I think, at least on my
Me.
part, just being funny. But he does bring up he did bring up some really, really good points,
Sure.
fortunately for us and for him and having him as a fan. But
And let me just say that understand that for whoever's listening, that I tend to be a skeptic, and so I'm not denying that things like the Drake equation and math and all of these things point to the idea that there may be a universe fully bristling with life, and I think that these articles will say such, and that I know that we haven't looked around a lot, and I know that the cosmic time span of time is so great that things could have happened before or after our knowledge about what's going on in the universe that we have currently.
right.
So I admit that all of these things are possibilities. I am just taking a skeptic's point of view. I'm not denying that these things exist. I'm just being skeptical about them because I want to be skeptical about them. Because I'm a little bit jaded and bitter that we haven't found any life yet. Because I used to be a really huge supporter of these things and really, have a strong belief in these things. And
Well, that's
stuff.
right,
And
because there's a real strong history with you. You have a tremendous depth of knowledge when it comes to ufology and a lot of this kind of stuff, right? We talked about that when we talked about Dan Aykroyd being on
And
Joe
then
Rogan.
one day I just kind of woke up and said, you know what? Fuck it. This is bullshit. It's never going to happen. I'm not going to see it in my lifetime. And I'm going to quit putting hope in that. And I just kind of became a skeptic, right? So take that for what it's worth. When I'm poo-pooing on these things, I'm not saying it's wrong, and I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not an expert. But it's more of a personal thing probably than anything. And I suppose I think that the uniqueness of it only being us as a life form in the whole universe is kind of outweighs the uniqueness of there being a universe prolific with life.
Okay.
Right? So I kind of think it's kind of cool for that reason too. And as far as humor goes, the humor wasn't so much that the possibility of life existed on other planets. The humor for me is in that's like the card that gets pulled out and played every time something like this comes out. Like there's always this perpetual, but it could be life, right? And it's kind of funny because they're always falling back on that. And it's and there's different reasons why they do. Sometimes it's a steadfast belief in these equations and the current science. Sometimes it's because they want money and funding for their project and stuff. And sometimes it's just so, they don't look bad and have said that they've thrown their life away looking for alien life, right? But I think it's a noble pursuit, and I think it's one even that our government should have continued to back. When like SETI first started, I believe it was backed by a government and stuff, our government, and is now privately funded. But I think it should still be. I think it's worthwhile enough for it to be backed by the government still. I mean, I guess that's saying something for someone that's generally going to go on the side of saying that there's nothing
out there to find.
Right. And I agree with your point about the Tooth Fairy being a fictional character that's well known and stuff, as opposed to a term that's just saying something that's extraterrestrial or an intelligent life somewhere.
Yeah,
that's true
so
too.
the context here being that the joke that was made was when they detect something strange in space, they say, "Well, it could be alien life," and we
Right.
made the joke that it could
could
also
be
be the Tooth Fairy,
Right.
And he was very
Yeah.
smartly pointed out that the Tooth
they're two
Fairy is a
different
known
things, right.
fictional created
But
character.
it's still a sound
Right.
analogy in terms of the point that I was trying to make, which was just that it seems to be just as obscure or just as unlikely,
Yeah.
at least in the world that I live in, where for 50 years there has not been any evidence.
But
of,
that was that was an absolutely valid point that he made.
yeah.
Though.
But
Yeah,
I
it was
still stand by my words
yeah.
that it's as likely.
We illuminated
as
it
this.
utilizing a poor analogy. Given
Sure,
the
yeah.
context.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. We're making this shit up as we go along.
That's another thing,
okay?
too. 90% of the time, Matt picks these articles. I haven't seen them, and I don't know.
That's the point of this, right?
Yeah, I'm just kind of like giving commentary on it. I mean, obviously, if I wanted to, I could do research on any of these things and stuff and have a much stronger argument or that sort of thing if I was prepared. But no, this is just like if I was in a bar and somebody bought me a drink and asked me my opinion,
right?
I'd be like, "Well, this is what I think." You know?
And look, folks, this is worth what you're paying for it.
Oh yeah, my opinion's worth every cent you paid for it. That's true.
Okay, so shit.
But the main thing is,
but that's not. Look, I never take anything he says to us ever, and any of the things he's written as being any kind of personal.
Oh no,
I think he's actually trying to have a conversation.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely,
is the point that I get from him.
And that's what I think is the best thing about it. Like, I'm not trying to convince people that there are or are not aliens, or say that people that believe in aliens are silly or anything. Because I don't think that's silly. I think I would like to believe in aliens. I wish there were aliens, but that being,
well, it would really simplify things, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah.
I mean, wouldn't it? If let's say one just came along, open the hatch, and out they come,
well,
and it's like, boom, we got the technology that solves everything, bitches. It'd be like, woohoo, end of all pain and suffering. I know it sounds very messianic. Am I saying that right? Anyway, messianic. That's it. However, I mean. But it would really fix a lot. You would think if they have that kind of technology to bend space time, that all of our problems are like whatever. We can fix that shit,
But like I said, I think if it comes down to UFOs, I'm going to go with interdimensional time travelers from our future.
Yeah, I dig it.
Sort of a thing. So but I think it's less likely that it would be aliens. But that doesn't mean if you're talking about life existing in terms of any standard, like microscopic to intelligent. I think
there's a very broad definition when you come to. I mean, haven't we started to see where it looks like there was at least microbial life on Mars, or there's a strong possibility of microbial life on Mars?
Meteors that they found fossil sort of images in that potentially could be fossils of some sort of cellular life, but they're not sure. But they haven't yet to find any life anywhere. I mean, that's part of the bitterness, right? Like as I grew up, man, I watched a lot of probes go to Mars, which by all accounts had a really good chance of having some kind of life somewhere. And as the decades rolled by, they just kept scaling back. Well, maybe it's frozen in ice. Well, maybe it's underground. Well, maybe it's on Titan, frozen under ice. Or maybe, it's like, and then they'll develop a probe, and they'll go and search, and everywhere they search, they don't find anything, right? They don't find nothing. I mean, like, that's a big, huge dichotomy. Like, there's our planet that's just full of life that's in fossils, right? Like 98% of the fossil record was life.
Okay.
So there's a lot of fossils. And you go to Mars and you got all these rovers and stuff, you don't find one fossil there that's got any life at all from any time period. And it's kind of discouraging to me because if life was that prolific in our own solar system, if we were the only solar system, there should have been life on some other planet. But it's conspicuously devoid of anything, even fossils. And of course, as these articles may point out, it's maybe a matter of not having looked everywhere, had the chance to look, but in small, minute places and stuff. But I hope there's life somewhere else. I really do. I really hope that there is. I just have this feeling inside of me, very mystic feeling that makes me think that's just never going to happen.
I think that the odds are still tremendous, and I get that, but the odds of us even noticing it, I think, is what we're going to see here are tremendous.
Well, yeah, what we want is for people to talk about it. We don't want people to believe any particular thing, but we do want healthy discussions about things that people probably should talk about over dinner, other than politics, maybe.
Oh, I hope so. Please don't discuss politics. This comes from physics.org or phys.org. Why haven't we found any aliens yet? Many years ago, Carl Sagan predicted that there could be as many as 10,000 advanced extraterrestrial civilizations in our galaxy. After nearly 60 years of searching without success, a growing list of scientists believe life on Earth only came about because of a lucky series of evolutionary accidents, a long list of improbable events that just happened to come together at the right time and will never be repeated. Is it possible they are right? And are we all there is? Highly unlikely.
Okay, so let me interject that I actually picked out this article. I didn't read it, but I picked it out, but I skimmed it and it looked like it was going to support what Dan was saying, which is why I picked it, right? Because I do believe that's the going evidence and science trend is that there's likely life out there, and I don't want to sell people short on that or mislead anybody, right? But some of the things that they're talking about when they say in the top paragraph, if you go up there, growing list of scientists believe life on the Earth only come about because of a lucky series of evolutionary accidents along improbable events that just happen to come together at the right time and will never be repeated. Like examples of that are like when they talk about precession of our planet Earth being stabilized by our moon.
Right.
So precession is like when you're atop and the axis of the top is doing this, where there's a right. That's precession.
Right.
And if that gets too wackadoodle, the top stops spinning. Right.
Right.
That's what happened to Mars. Its precession was out of whack, and it stopped spinning efficiently, and then it lost its magnetic field, and the solar wind blew its atmosphere away. Right. So luckily for us, our planet was hit by some large object at just the right angle to produce a moon that flew off of our planet.
Okay.
And it helps stabilize, like if someone's doing the shot put thing, it helps stabilize them because it circles with us at an opposite direction, right? And it stabilizes precession because of that. And out of all the moons in the solar system that we've seen, our moon is closer to our planet than any other moons are close to their planet. So it's unnaturally close to our planet, which is one of the reasons why they think it came from our planet too, because of how close it is. And it's receding further and further each year.
Okay.
So that's a high list of improbable events right there. We had to be hit by some object. It had to be at a certain angle so that the object didn't destroy the planet, but caused a piece of that planet to fly off of it and coalesce into the moon, and that stabilized precession in our planet, allowing us to keep the molten core turning in the center of our planet, which creates a magnetic field, which kept the solar wind from blowing our atmosphere away. Like, that's pretty lucky.
Okay.
None of the other planets have that going on for them.
When we say when you say Goldilocks zone, you're talking about.
Well, there's another one. That's a different one. The Goldilocks zone, of course, is being too close to the sun or too far away from.
Well,
no,
I understand, but this is an even tighter version of that. Where there's, but all that's getting at, though, man, is, and not to be the contrarian, because that's what the article's for here, right? However, is that's for this specific carbon-based definition of life.
Sure. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. But there's a huge list of these things. Mm-hmm. So, of course, there's the Goldilocks zone, which is being too close or too far away from the sun in the solar system, right?
Right.
Which is about between Mars and Venus, roughly speaking. And, of course, there's a Goldilocks zone as it pertains to our galaxy.
Right.
If we were too close to the center of the galaxy, there'd be too much radiation for life. If we were too far out, that would be less favorable there.
Right.
So we happen to be in a pretty good spot in the galaxy for life to develop. Also, another one of those things is that we were born around a carbon-based star.
Right.
So there's other things too, right? There was like a list of things.
Most of these things I'm saying right, pretending like I know that's significant, but I'm right. Oh, I guess that would be. Yeah, a lot of this is the first time I've heard, but you're right. Yeah, like to the birth being on a planet that's near a carbon-based star.
Yeah.
Like I was like, oh shit, yeah, I guess that is significant, right?
Yeah, because not all stars are going to create carbon,
right?
So you wouldn't have carbon-based life, like you pointed out, just to have that kind of life at least. And there are other situations too, like just getting hit by a giant rock.
Yeah, which has happened.
Right.
Several times.
Yeah, or any of the other extinctions that occurred. But anyways, yeah, there's like a long list of things, and there's more like Michio Kaku talks about things as you start getting into civilization and intelligence, where there's these bottleneck periods. Like, for instance, everybody, if there are other intelligent life on other planets, right? At some point, they're going to figure out that inside of all matter is energy, and there's a huge amount of energy
inside of matter.
Per matter, right? Per bit of matter, and that's basically they're going to figure out how to make atomic bombs, right? And they're going to have to get through this bottleneck wherein they can destroy themselves, and this bottleneck will happen in about 3 or 4 different ways. That's pretty much inevitable for people to have to deal with. And then, of course, and there's all these other things that could happen, too, that would just wipe out a civilization. Aside from war and atomic bombs, there's biohazards and things like that. So it seems really weird that we've made it this far. And sometimes, in my opinion, I think, wow, it's really weird that we've even lasted.
Well, we've made it this far in spits and spurts, to be honest.
But still going strong as a species.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, still prolific.
Yeah, still humans everywhere. So, I mean,
and
we're doing
more of them coming every day.
Right. But
okay, so the article says Earth is a typical rocky planet in an average solar system, nestled in the spiral arm of an ordinary galaxy. All the events and elements that came together to build our world could happen almost everywhere throughout the galaxy, and there should be nothing unusual about the evolution of life on this planet or on any others. I think in the conversation we just had, you accept that freely, right? Yeah. In a galaxy of hundreds of billions of stars, the law of averages dictates that intelligent life must exist somewhere, so why haven't we found it yet? There could be many reasons.
I dislike that sentence.
Okay, why is that?
Read it again.
In a galaxy of hundreds of billions of stars, the law of averages dictates.
Of averages dictates. I don't like it when math dictates at me.
Oh, do tell, huh?
Yeah. I mean, there's some kind of math.
Don't you be dictating to me, mathematics.
That's right. I know that's going to give me a headache at some point when physics lands me on my butt. You know what I'm saying? I'm not denying the math of physics, right? I'm denying the math of probability.
Okay.
Right, which I'm not saying physical laws don't matter and math doesn't matter as it pertains to physical laws, but I really dislike it when people are talking in probabilities to begin with, and if they feel secure in the math of the probability, then they go ahead and they attack on my hex-based war game, or they say, no, I'm absolutely positive that there's aliens because the math backs me up.
Okay.
And then they're often right. Like in the hex,
You're not denying that,
no, in
right?
the hex-based war game, they usually come over and kill me, right? Because they have the numbers or whatever that makes sense.
And a calculator that has graphing functions. Fuck you and your graphing functions.
I'm just saying, I don't like it when math dictates to me. Like, I don't know what's going on, but the math says that probably there's people hanging out catching rides out in space, hitchhiking.
Like hitchhiking
through the galaxy, yeah.
Zaphod Beeblebrox.
That's the kind.
Okay, so looking for a radio signal in a galaxy of over 400 billion worlds across, well, they say worlds, across 100,000 light years and billions of radio frequencies makes the proverbial needle in a haystack sound easy. Imagine you're driving home, your spouse is in one car and you're in the other. There's a thick fog making visual confirmation impossible and no cell phone reception. Luckily, a week ago, you had a 250-channel CB installed in both cars. So there's just a lot of improbable shit going into this example right off the bat. But putting all of that aside, unfortunately, you forgot to agree on a broadcast channel. To chat, the two CBs would have to be on this at the same time, and you need to independently search every channel, listen, broadcast, then move to the next, hoping to get lucky enough to land on the same channel.
Okay, here we come to another problem I have a hard time getting around, right? This is we're looking over a vast area, and we've only looked, we could only looked in this really one small place, right? There's so much area, there still could be life out there, right?
Okay.
But that's also, then you have to start thinking, well, if that's the case, then why haven't these super technological aliens that potentially might exist in all these thousands of existing aliens out there? There must be a few of them who are more technologically superior than the others, right?
I would think so.
Well, why ain't they looking for us? I mean, why ain't they? Why
That's
aren't
the
there?
dark forest, or
Well, that's what I'm saying. You got to kind of
maybe they're
invent
smart
some
and they
sort
know
of,
better than to be out
right.
there.
Yeah, you got to invent some sort of thing, right, to
Okay.
explain why it's not happening. Like, yeah, you can say it's the dark forest thing, and yeah, you can say they're not interested in us, and you could maybe even say there's billions and billions of planets and they just haven't got to us yet, right? But they also should be having supercomputers that can calculate
You would
things
think.
on the quantum level to do what they're doing to begin with. If there's a space starfaring civilization, right, they're going to have quantum computing. Quantum computing could go through these radio frequencies and search places a lot quicker, and the system of buoys and stuff that they would have set in place over their own territory, they would surely know what was in their own territory and be able to contact them. I mean, and then if not, then you got to come up with all these reasons. Well, why wouldn't they? Are they different from us? Do they not want to contact us? Are we boring? Are they predators and they're going to kill us? It's like it's just another layer of, well, I don't know that they're out there, but I think they're out there.
Right.
But well, then tell me why they're not talking to us. Well, here's another reason why I think they're not. It's like, just, you didn't know they were out there to begin with. Now there's this other reason that you're giving me for why they're not talking to us. It's all sounding really flimsy, man.
Bro, and as far as like transmitting energy out into the galaxy, the planet is like the strip in New Jersey during Fleet Week. Bro, I mean, every light's on, we're just blasting energy.
And we're listening.
And
we're listening for other people to blast
Right.
their energy. And if there's so many people in the galaxy, shouldn't we be seeing them or them seeing us or something? I mean, if it's that filled with life, shouldn't we kind of be stumbling over each other? Or
well, I think
something?
that's what they're going to talk about here. Is the odds are still freaking ridiculous, though,
Maybe
of
so.
even finding it. What are the odds that would happen? Not very good. Multiply the scenario 100 billion. This is the CB radios, 250 channels. 100 billion times, and you have some idea of the challenges facing SETI. That's the search for extraterrestrial intelligence.
Yes, I have that SETI home on my computer.
And you let them use your computer to look for aliens.
It's a noble pursuit. I said that.
Yeah. To add to that, advanced civilizations probably only stay radioactive for a relatively short time. In their development, as they develop more sophisticated technology, searching the radio spectrum would require looking at one frequency 24/7 for years to be sure you weren't missing something, and telescope time is far too expensive for that. While you are sitting on that single frequency, 20 extraterrestrial signals could have come in on other channels and you'd never know it.
That's for us. But other species that had more advanced technology than us should be able to scan more frequencies and do it in
Be
a
able to
quicker
pick
time.
it out easier. Yeah.
Quicker, at least.
Okay, so we talk about the Fermi paradox a lot. So I think this is going to kind of go into a little bit of depth on that. But the Fermi paradox is used by many skeptics as the holy grail when trying to prove there is a nobody out there, right? And so again, you being the skeptic, maybe.
Yeah, this is the card I tout out.
This is your trump card, as it were, huh? Fermi theorized that a galaxy with so much potential for life must be full of extraterrestrials.
Yeah, full of them. Tripping over each other. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. He noted that since the majority of stars are considerably older than our sun, extraterrestrials could be millions of years more advanced than us. Fermi calculated that even at sublight speed, one of those civilizations should have colonized the galaxy by now, and we would have seen evidence of it.
So consider that even at sublight speed, without going faster than the speed of light, and the length of time that the universe has been in existence, any species that would have made it as far as we were and started to advance and colonize other places would have had enough time to colonize everything, the whole galaxy.
Okay.
Before now. And so we would have been in their territory.
Okay, but now the article says there is, however, a problem with that logic.
Okay.
In 50,000 years, humans will probably look a little different than people do now. In 10 million years, considerably different. Imagine a civilization completely different from us from the start and 10 billion years more advanced. We might not even be able to recognize them as life forms, let alone see any evidence of their existence.
Oh, come on now.
Oh, do tell.
Well, so they don't look like they did when they started. They're still entities that exist and can
Maybe
be
these
seen.
are your time travelers, man. Maybe. That's what they're talking about here.
Maybe.
They're interdimensional.
But why wouldn't they want to contact us?
Maybe they
Time travelers wouldn't,
no.
but other aliens might.
Arthur C. Clarke once said, advanced extraterrestrials would probably be indistinguishable to us from magic. Their communications would be like listening for an answer to the drum beats and getting only silence while the ether around you is filled with more information in a second than one could utter in a lifetime. There could be the alien equivalent of the Super Bowl going on a few light years away, and we would probably not even have a clue.
See, to me, sometimes that type of speculation borders on mystical or religious. I mean, they're literally advancing these species to the point of being, like they're saying, more information in the ether around you and stuff like that. They're generating information you just can't tap into. I mean, would it really be that alien? You know what I mean? Like would it really be almost like encountering ghosts or spirits,
right,
or and that their voice we don't understand and we can't hear, and that there's no, you know, I mean, would it really be like that? And if so, if it would be like that, we still have to answer the question, then why aren't they contacting us? Because obviously they could use conventional means of doing so.
If they want it.
If they wanted to, right? But again, I dislike it when people speculate to the extreme. Arthur C. Clarke, a fiction writer, is speculating like a fiction writer.
Well, it's a term of art for that. It's like argument ad absurdum or something like that.
Maybe.
It's when people use the most ludicrous example to make their point. It doesn't necessarily mean it's realistic in any way. Though.
I guess that's what I'm saying. Like, can't there be anything in between? Can't there be aliens that's more advanced than us but still able to talk to us and stuff?
Right.
And it's not going to be like
some sort of demigod or whatever. Yeah,
some kind of spiritual experience or something. Like, is that possible?
Chill out, man. The distances in our galaxy are incredibly vast. Current spacecraft travel about 20 times faster than the speed of a bullet. While that sounds fast, at that speed it would take a spacecraft 75,000 years to travel to our nearest star, only 4 light years away. Light years are a measure of distance, so if we could speed that ship up to 186,000 miles per second, it would only take 4 years to reach that same star. Looking at a star 1,000 light years away is like being in a time machine. You're not seeing it as it is now, but 1,000 years ago. Our galaxy is about 100,000 light years across with over 200 billion stars. Current theory suggests there may be as many as 1 billion Earth-like planets in our galaxy. If just 1/10 of those had some kind of life, that would leave us with about 100 million worlds harboring one-celled creatures or better. So that's the definition, one-celled creature. I don't struggle with that though. I don't struggle with. I think that that's very logical, don't you?
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that they've learned how to make a radio transmitter.
True.
Or that they've survived long enough to become intelligent enough to or ever will. Right. Yeah, I mean the universe is an extremely brutal playground, man.
Yeah.
Cosmic shit flying around out there.
Which is when another thing that I generally espouse is that if there is other life in the galaxy, that we are probably the most advanced form of life currently in the galaxy.
Well, somebody's got to be first.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
I mean, so maybe what if that's it?
Yeah, that's I think that's a much
the
stronger possibility than
the probability of being alive at all is extreme.
Yeah.
But if you spread it across the entirety of eternity, it's not so extreme. But then evolving, surviving long enough to get through some sort of evolutionary scale to become self-aware to the point where you have imagination and you start using tools. And, I mean, there's a whole lot of shit that happens here.
Yeah.
But is it likely it's happened? Yeah. But if that's possible, if you happen to be on that rock, what if you happen to also have hit the lottery and won first one there? Like, you're here first.
Yeah.
Congrats. You know? I don't know. I'm just saying.
No, I think, that's what I'm thinking, that it's, more likely that we're
Look, it's easy.
most advanced.
It's like this. It's like, you can walk up, I've said this before, you can walk up to pretty much every human being you ever meet for the rest of your life and shake their hand and say, you're never going to win Powerball. make a prediction, like a Nostradamus-like prediction to
Yeah.
them, right? And you'll be right so much that it won't matter if you're ever wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but why? Because because the lottery is a tax on people who are bad at math, right? Well, like when you sort of understand the odds, you know that you're probably, not only are you never going to win the lottery, but no one you ever meet personally is ever going to win like a significant. I mean, people win scratch tickets and shit all the time, but the odds are a lot better.
I've been to a couple of people's houses that hit the big lottery.
Yeah.
But they were both in jail when I was at their house. It's true. And that's not a joke. I'm not making that up. I'm making it sound funny, but I'm not making it up.
It's true.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate?
Yeah, sure. A couple of summers ago, I had a job where I had to go around the county by townships,
okay,
and take pictures of everybody's structures on their property.
Oh, for like tax assessment.
Yeah,
okay.
like for their barns and their houses and whatever sheds and shit that they had. And I was following a satellite map, and we had to get every house, every structure, right, that's on the satellite map.
Okay.
So, two of the houses we went to were these big, giant houses that had all this shit around them and stuff. And in both cases, we had to get somebody to let us in because they had like gates and stuff around it. And in both cases, the people were in jail because they had gotten in trouble with drugs and stuff because they'd spent a bunch of money on parties and drugs and stuff, and it became evident, and people came and got them and took them away.
And there it goes, huh?
Yep.
So now all that money's going to lawyers and legal fees.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, there's nobody at the place and I'm sure that the pictures we took is just going to be more taxes out of their pocket and stuff,
Well, ultimately, the state gets it all back.
Yeah.
You might have won it, but you really didn't win it.
Nope, we were there.
Well, some people hang on to it. They get smart with it and hire advisors.
These two guys didn't.
Not so much.
No, one guy was on Dozer Road, and then I forget the other road we were on.
Dozer Road.
Yeah, that was the name of the road.
Okay, so we already said that. If just the tiniest fraction of them, if 1/100,000th managed to spawn an advanced race of beings, there could be as many as 1,000 extraterrestrial civilizations in our galaxy alone.
Okay, I accept those numbers.
Regardless of whether you consider that a lot or a little, that would mean one technically advanced alien society exists for every 100 million stars. Our nearest extraterrestrial neighbor might be very, very, very far away. In the movies, the speculative fiction of warp speed, hyperdrive, and wormholes enable spaceships to travel faster than the speed of light and breach those distances fairly easily. But if the physics of this turn out to be impossible, then even the nearest alien civilizations may find interstellar travel very difficult and quite understandable, or undesirable is what it says there. So, okay, so maybe this is just proof that there are some limits to the laws of physics, and just because there could be other civilizations, they could be thousands, hundreds of thousands of years before us. They could be hundreds of thousands of years behind us. Their transmissions have already all passed us. I mean, I don't know. I'm throwing a lot of mud out here, but and they can't travel because you just can't do it. There's just no way to take matter past that.
You can't get faster than light. It's not going to be practical. There's no real reason. And that's possible. I mean, again, I don't deny this. I don't deny that scientifically and mathematically speaking, there's a better chance than I would want to think that there was civilizations out there in the galaxy. Just we can't get a hold of them or talk to them.
But like my lottery hypothesis, however, you can, this is even more so, you could walk around for your entire lifetime and say, I'm 100% certain there's no such thing as alien life from other planets. And it's very likely that no one's ever going to prove you wrong.
Sure, yeah.
Just because of the same math here. Yeah. So what I said is that it's easy to be a skeptic here.
Yeah, it is. It's
very easy to be a skeptic here.
Again, that's like saying, I'm sure there's people out there that's won the lottery. I don't know any of them. I've never seen any. I probably never will. You'll never prove to me that one of my friends could possibly do that. None of them are going to hit the lottery.
Right.
That's essentially, I suppose, what I'm saying when I'm going against the math and the science, right? I'm kind of being a contrarian.
Right.
But I don't deny it, so I haven't opened up enough of a mind to know that it's possible, and I would actually hope that it would be that way.
Right.
But anyways.
So Stephen Hawking has said, quote, "I believe extraterrestrial life is quite common in the universe, although intelligent life less so. Some say it has yet to appear on Earth." I think he's right. Do we need to do this one now?
Oh, maybe a little bit of it.
Aliens could have.
So well, okay. Let's frame this right.
This is from Science Alert. Go ahead.
Okay, so this is another situation I think that plays into what Dan W. talks about too, and what that last article spoke to, which is basically with the timelines involved and stuff. It's also possible. Another possibility is aliens could have came and gone. Could have been quite spectacular.
But we weren't. No one was here to see it.
Yeah, nobody recorded it, or like Eric von Daniken and Giorgio Tsoukalos say, they recorded it and we misinterpreted it as religion.
Okay. Okay.
And I can get behind that too, right? Because I think religion is caused by interaction with psilocybin mushrooms and psychotropic substances, right? The stoned ape theory, right? So that is a whole other ballgame.
Bro, I was in a restaurant with a buddy of mine
here
recently, and I was explaining to him the stoned ape theory.
Yeah.
And I wasn't paying a lot of attention to where I was geographically, but I was in an extremely faith-rich location of rural America.
People giving you a stink
I started
eye.
looking around, and it was like, I told him, I was like, we should probably get out of here before I get mugged. It just dawned on me. There were like people, I know that conversation I had with him without even thinking about it. Ruined some people's dinners, man. It was like, whoa, okay, let me get out of here. The theory, folks. Shit, chill out. I don't know if it's real or not. It's just interesting. Sorry, go ahead.
That's hilarious.
Sorry, Eric.
No,
no, it's another Eric.
Oh, okay.
The one I happen to be with.
Yeah, see,
anyway.
Us together wouldn't be good going out and
no
with him in the restaurant like
no,
that.
not like that. So the Milky Way, okay, so this says aliens could have explored the galaxy and visited Earth already, scientists say. The Milky Way could be teeming with interstellar alien civilizations, according to a new study. We just don't know about it because they haven't paid us a visit in 10 million years. The study published last month in the Astronomical Journal posits that intelligent extraterrestrial life could be taking its time to explore the galaxy, harnessing star systems' movement to make star hopping easier. The work is a new response to a question known as the Fermi paradox, which asks, why haven't we detected signs of extraterrestrial intelligence? The paradox was first posed by physicist Enrico Fermi, who also famously asked, where is everybody? Where y'all at?
It's like that meme with Travolta.
Yeah. Fermi was questioning the feasibility of travel between stars, but since then, his query has come to represent doubts about the very existence of extraterrestrials at all. Astrophysicist Michael Hart explored the question formally when he argued in a 1975 paper that there has been plenty of time for intelligent life to colonize the Milky Way in the 13.6 billion years since the galaxy first formed, yet we've heard nothing from them. That's kind of what you were getting at earlier, was that, well, there's been enough time that if there was a superior race, it would have all, and it should have already colonized the whole galaxy.
Yeah, that's what they were saying in the other article too, and I think that the person that first pointed that out on media was Carl Sagan, and then whoever it was that came up with it, they talked about in the first article. I can't remember who it was though, but yeah, I mean, like whoever, they done these calculations that even at sublight speed, they would have had time.
Yeah, to pull it off. Hart concluded that there must be no other advanced civilizations in our galaxy. So, again, but we could be first.
True. Well, would have to be by that definition,
right.
I would think.
So far from what we've seen, right. The new study offers a different perspective on the question. Maybe aliens are just taking their time and being strategic, the authors suggest. So this is like a weird hybrid dark forest / cautious.
Yeah, maybe.
Paranoid race, right?
Yeah.
He says, quote, if you don't account for the motion of stars when you try to solve this problem, you're basically left with one of two solutions. Jonathan Carroll Nellenbach, a computational scientist, the study's lead author, told Business Insider, either nobody leaves their planet or we are, in fact, the only technological civilization in the galaxy.
Mm.
Ooh, them's fighting words, Bubba. Right? I mean, think about that. I mean, he's basically throwing, that's a line in the
throwing
sand.
the gauntlet down,
You know?
Yeah.
So, okay. I love it when nerds get nasty.
Yeah.
It says stars and the planets around them orbit the center of the galaxy on different paths at different speeds. As they do, they occasionally pass each other, Carol Nellenbach pointed out. So aliens could be waiting for their next destination to come closer to them, his study says. In that case, civilizations would take longer to spread across the stars than hard estimated, so they may not have reached us yet, or maybe they did long before humans ever evolved.
Maybe. Hey, Eric Von Daniken, Giorgio Tsoukalos, those guys, they certainly will get behind any of these things they're going to talk about. So there's the zoo hypothesis.
Again, yeah, sort of reiterated in a different spin. That's what I said. It's like a weird zoo hypothesis kind of idea. Yep. Well, that's now they're going to go into it. We talk about that.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah, we talked about this.
So it's there's still it's yeah, and it's also you can be in a safe place by saying, I believe in aliens because the math supports it too, and there's a good likelihood that you're never going to be proven right, or wrong. Conversely, either, right? Like, so it's a wonderful little gray area that sort of tucks itself into probability.
And then some people would say that there's substantiating evidence too. For instance, there is the Amarna period artwork.
Okay.
The Amarna period is a period in time when Akhenaten had a palace out in the desert, kind of in the middle of nowhere, and all the art from that period had them looking like they had these really elongated skulls, right?
Okay.
And of course, many people, like Van Daniken and Tsoukalos, have pointed to these pictures and these skulls that they found, like in Peru and places like that, and said, well, it's alien hybrid, or, one alien that was left over from when the aliens came, right. And Zacharias Sitchin could see in the cuneiform that they had uplifted primates to be humans with the alien DNA in, right? And they'll say this is like so this leader was like either part alien or completely alien, and this is proof that a long time ago this happened. That was kind of like the theme behind that last Indiana Jones movie,
the crystal skulls.
Yeah. So anyway, I think you have an article next that kind of addresses, and this is another reason why I tend to be skeptical, right? Because at least, and again, I don't know, I just seen the name of the article, right? So I don't know exactly what it is. Well,
we're gonna
find out. But if it's what the article is saying on the title, then I'm suspecting that that this is going to put the nail in the coffin for the people that were saying that these elongated heads that are depicted in this Amarna period artwork is examples of aliens from
because they never
times.
found. Well, they did find people that. Anyway, yeah, the whole wrapping the skull has been a cultural thing at times too.
Yeah, for different cultures, and deforming the skull with wood and stuff. So
it's crazy.
Yeah,
at least the feet.
Yeah,
as well.
Well, feet binding.
Yeah.
So I mean, anthropologically speaking, this has been manifested in our species in various ways in various cultures and stuff, and this is just another example of that.
This comes from sciencenews.org. Archaeologists have finally found ancient Egyptian wax head cones. Not Max Headrooms, wax head cones.
Right on.
The mysterious headgear appears often in art dating from around 3,500 to 2,000 years ago. Excavations at the ancient Egyptian city of Amarna uncovered the skeleton of a woman in her mid-20s who was buried wearing a cone-shaped cap that likely held spiritual significance, researchers say.
I just told my roommate that to be a spiritual leader, we had to have a funny hat.
It is a thing, isn't it?
It seems to be.
It does.
Funny
right.
hats seem to denote religious significance.
And royalty.
Yeah, well, yeah, but royalty's a little different, but a little more structured, maybe. You know what I mean? But the religious hats get kind of crazy.
They get kind of nuts.
Oh. I'm just saying.
Long before extraterrestrial cone heads and Saturday Night Live skits claimed to have come from France, real-life cone heads existed in Egypt. Prominent people wearing cone-shaped headgear appear frequently in Egypt art dating from around 3550 to 2,000 years ago, but none of those cones have ever been found until now. Archaeologists report unearthing 2 such headpieces at the ancient Egyptian city of Amarna. Built by the pharaoh Akhenaten and occupied from around 1347 BC to 1332 BC, Amarna contains thousands of graves of ordinary people. Excavated skeletons of 2 people were topped by remnants of head cones. Archaeologist Anna Stevens of Monash University in Melbourne, Australia, and colleagues report in the December Antiquity. I guess Antiquity is a magazine.
Yes.
One cone adorned the skeleton of a woman in her 20s. The other was atop the skeleton of a 15 to 20-year-old of undetermined sex.
So, I'm sure there's going to be more to this, and we can or cannot read it, but there you go. I mean, they argued. And
so there's the archaeological
argued.
evidence that they wore headdresses.
This is just as satisfying to me as the Philistine thing.
Okay.
Because I just love that now definitively you can say, no, it was a religious headgear. And this has been shown in many religions, many cultures, and this is an example, and we found it, and here it is, and this is why they had these paintings that were like that, and it had nothing to do at all with aliens.
Period.
Not that I didn't want it to have to do with aliens. That would have been way cooler.
Right.
But ultimately, the reality in the world that we're living in is that it had nothing to do with aliens, like nothing else we've ever actually found.
Right.
And, you know, and this used to be one of those things until tonight, as far as I knew, was up for grabs. Like, you know, somebody could always throw the Amarna art card down, right? Well,
and say, well, what's the
why are they like this? What does that mean? There was before this in their history, they didn't have this kind of art, and after this, they didn't.
Right.
And we all know that Akhenaten got taken down by the people when he destroyed the priest class and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but geez, you know, okay, sure, but now. Well,
but now there's archaeological proof.
Yeah, that they wore these hats that was of religious significance, apparently.
Now, the argument could be made that, and I've heard this too, that the people that do bind their heads and did do this kind of stuff were doing it in reverence for the actual aliens.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
And that's fine. That's no different.
But that's another step removed.
Well, yeah, and it's no different than saying they're doing it for the reverence of their deities, which I don't believe in deities either.
So there you go.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, at that point, to me, it doesn't make any difference. Yeah, I'm sure that they were doing it in reference of something. I won't argue over what that is. It's hard enough knowing what they were doing, that they weren't actually just alien hybrids and that they had these wax cones. That's hard enough to know what was in their mind. I don't know. I mean, maybe it was the aliens or God. Maybe it was synonymous. I'm just happy we found out they didn't have elongated heads and brains, alien brains.
You will sleep better at night.
I don't know if I'll sleep any better, but
it does bring you some joy.
It does, yeah. I mean, because I'm not against it. I know it sounds like I am, but I would have been more excited if it would have been for aliens. I would have been flabbergastedly excited.
Yeah.
And then I would have maybe want to commit my life to that or something, right?
Right.
But damn, I fucking made my saving throw again. Now I don't have to commit my life to that because I found out it was just a wax helmet.
Damn it.
And what else would a wax helmet be for but a religious significance, because it's not going to protect you.
But it could be completely faddish type of thing that was used, let's say, for fashion or whatever, right?
It could be.
Remember we did the article about the body they found that looked like it was carrying an iPhone?
Mm-hmm.
But it was just a tablet of
like a belt buckle.
Yeah. Ultimately, it was
fancy belt buckle.
Fancy belt buckle, but it was you know, it was a bull riding belt buckle from prehistoric age.
Right? Yeah.
A fighter belt, you know, like a boxer. Or
Look,
whatever.
we did an hour on aliens and
that's a good show, man. Yeah,
this is all for you, Dan.
Yeah, you really got to stirred up here. I love it when he takes
when
someone takes the time like he did to really listen to everything And to realize, that, I mean, then to go into the level of comment and stuff, man, I love that kind of feedback. And it got us fired up. And it's like, hey, let's fucking hit the record button, man. We're going to get rolling tonight. So electric charges on dust grains may help explain how planets are born. This one comes from sciencenews.org.
So we got to convince them?
What do you mean?
Well, you said they might help explain how planets were formed. So, like, do we got to coerce them to come in and help to explain it? I'm making such a bad joke, you're confused. It's all right.
Wow.
I know, you're like, what the hell, dude?
That one went right by me.
It's just terrible.
When I edit these shows, I go back a lot of times when I'm like reading ahead to see what direction it's going to go in. You make comments sometimes and I miss them completely. And they're funny as shit. And I go back and when I'm watching the edits, I'm like, how did I miss that?
Busy.
So I'm trying not to do that as much, man. I'm trying to actually like, yeah, fuck this. What are you saying?
Nothing important.
Growing up is hard to do, especially for baby planets. Now scientists may have uncovered the solution to one puzzle about protoplanetary growing pains. Say that 10 times fast.
Growing pains.
An obstacle to planetary formation, known as the bouncing barrier, hinders the clumping of dust particles that eventually form planets. But electric charge can provide extra stickiness that those cosmic motes need for clumps to keep growing, scientists report December 9 in Nature Physics. Testing that explanation required vigorously shaking thousands of small glass beads and catapulting them more than 100 meters skyward in an attempt to mimic planets' birthplaces, protoplanetary disks. In the pancakes of dust and gas known as protoplanetary disks, the seeds of planets collide and stick, forming larger and larger clumps. But according to experiments and simulations, once particles are a millimeter or so in size, their growth stalls as they bounce off of one another rather than sticking. It's a quandary that has stymied attempts to simulate how planets actually form. Kind of makes sense, right?
One of those gray areas of science that people might be able to pry apart a little bit to their own desire. Am I being too cryptic?
No, I get what you're saying. Okay. Yeah. Somehow the dust particles overcome the bouncing barrier, resulting in a cosmos peppered with a wide variety of worlds. Quote, we see exoplanets, so there must be a way to get bigger particles, says experimental astrophysicist Tobias Steinpils. Nice. I love that. Tobias Steinpils of the University of Duisburg. Eisen. We just lost our one Germany fan.
Yeah, or he's laughing on the floor.
Oh, God. Give us a video response of how this is supposed to be pronounced. So Steinpils and colleagues set out to form analogs of planetary seeds. Instead of protoplanetary dust grains, the researchers used glass beads, each a bit less than 0.5 millimeter in diameter. Collisions between those beads would mimic colliding dust particles in the protoplanetary disk. But there was one catch: Earth's gravity, quote, that overpowers everything we want to see, Steinpils says. Yeah, you have to do it in space.
Mm-hmm.
So they launched a catapult inside a 120-meter tall Bremen drop tower in Germany, letting the apparatus containing the beads, a camera, and other measurement equipment fly upward and back down during its approximately 9-second flight. The device was effectively weightless.
Thank you, relativity and Einstein.
Yeah, right? So they took a ball that they put a bunch of instruments in, and they couldn't take it in space and run the experiment. So they like freaking just yeeted it way the hell up into the air, and it basically flew for 9 seconds, mimicking weightlessness.
Yeah.
That's kind of funny. Prior to the launch, the researchers shook the beads, mimicking the collisions that particles in a protoplanetary. I like this protoplanetary.
Good luck. All right.
Here we go. And snake eyes.
And we got planets.
Look at that shit. And would experience over time. That movement caused the beads to build up electric charges, some negative and some positive. When the beads went weightless, they formed clumps, some consisting of over 1,000 beads. Thanks to electric forces between the charged beads, the researchers determined.
Well, how interesting. I love that this shows that gravity was not the sole force of nature responsible for planets.
No, it
being
doesn't show
formed.
that at all. It says it could be.
Well, no, I'm just saying that, yeah.
Right?
I mean, I just love how though it's saying it's
Not
it's
to be
not just
pedantic,
solely gravity,
Yeah.
but this could be playing a part in that too. But it's still using the laws of physics.
To pull it off.
Yeah.
The results, quote, clearly show that electrostatic forces help grow beyond the bouncing barrier in lab conditions. So, okay, clearly. He used the word clearly show words, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Not might, not maybe.
Yep. All the data indicates.
And this is the guy that said this is Richard Booth at the University of Cambridge. But he notes, quote, there's a question of trying to extrapolate these lab conditions to what we see in protoplanetary disks. In particular, these disks consist of dust grains made of natural materials rather than glass. Yeah, but as an analog, I mean, it's
the start to see that there is a process that could be invoked.
There's a correlation.
Yeah, and a process that could be invoked in planetary formation.
But that's measurable.
Yeah,
predictable now, repeatable. So thus,
a theory, not a hypothesis
anymore. Yeah. All right. I dig it. I like where that's going. A lot. You want to talk about epilepsy demons? We've already gone over an hour.
What do you think?
I don't know.
How do you feel? Actually, I should say, how do you feel? Because it sounds like I'm saying, well, what do you think?
Well, what do you think?
Oh, well, I don't know how you feel.
Well, how do you feel?
I'm confused.
Problem is that we have an entire other show's worth of stuff here, starting with scientists finding epilepsy demons and moving on at the rate we've been going.
Well, I can say I got something too that I guess I could say.
Okay.
Concerning me.
Should we hold hands or anything?
Yeah,
before
brother. This is going to be religious too. So.
Oh my God.
It just brings to my mind that there have been other people who have been curious about or concerned about my religious proclivities and things of that nature. Because I have
proclivities. I don't think you have any religious proclivities.
Well, if I do, it's about Orco R.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I don't think I think that's a physics sort of hypothesis for physics.
Yeah, but I kind of extrapolate it a lot into like a kind of a religion, and that's my proclivity, I guess, is to find something real sciencey to be my religion. I guess is what I'm saying. Like I don't know, but I do know that aside from Orco R, and really the only thing that might come close to is maybe reincarnation.
Okay.
Right, as a spiritual belief or something, which I really even dislike saying anything like I believe in reincarnation, right? But if I was to believe in that sort of thing, it would have to be through the mechanism of orchestrated reduction of quantum entangled information in microtubulars of the brain, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of spiritual, right? And I've always equated to where you go to be heaven or the source, and or at least that's what people call heaven, but really heaven is being here on Earth, where there's a veil in linear time and chemical processes and stuff, right? Which is really heaven, and that's just the waiting area. So that's kind of a religion, I suppose. But aside from that sort of a thing, I tend not to believe that there are any deities at all or any intelligent spiritual life or anything like that. However, I don't think in any way it's bad for people to believe in those things. Just like if I don't believe in aliens, I'm not saying I'm not making fun of you for believing in aliens. I wouldn't do that if somebody was believing in a deity of any kind. I do find both of these things fascinating. I definitely am interested in UFOs and ancient aliens and have a lot of knowledge concerning those things, as I do with, the brain and how it relates to the quantum world and this Orco R stuff. And I have a huge interest, obviously, in first century Christianity and Gnosticism and that sort of thing, and other ancient religions.
The pursuit of
the knowledge
of you going and becoming a historian and seeking advanced degrees.
So I can be quite glib though about spiritual belief when I'm thinking of it in my head, like, if someone says, do you believe in a deity? And I may laugh and say, no, that's silly. That would be like believing in the tooth fairy, right? That's just me talking about me, right? But if I was to think that if someone was, or they were asking me, do you think I'm silly for doing that? I would say no. And there's a lot of reasons for this. And there's a lot of weird Joseph Campbell type reasons why I think that it's important for people to have spiritual beliefs, right? So I wouldn't want to undermine anyone's spiritual belief or anything of that nature. But at the same time, you really can't ask me to take it seriously because I don't take it seriously in my own life, right? I can respect it, but at the same time, I can't just initially see that as my forefront of my life. I mean, some people would say it's blasphemous not to do that, right? And maybe I'm going to offend people just because I don't have that headspace, because I don't have faith, right? But I don't mean to, and that's not my intention generally. So I'll say that here on the podcast here and now for people to reference concerning aliens or religious things, right? I mean, I have as much respect as I can for people, but I am absolutely an anti-theist and a skeptic, and unabashedly so. And ultimately, at the end of the day, you're probably going to get a chuckle from me on those issues. I mean, I'll talk about it all day long, and I'm fascinated with it. But
But you're not at all dismissing that. And I think we've talked about this, that for some people, sometimes they are able to find long-lasting, positive, transformative benefits from a faith. Sure. And that's you're not
great.
Dismissing that in any way, and you think that that's a wonderful thing, and people should consider that as an option if circumstances necessitate it, right? You have no problem with that.
No, and I've come across
and you're not arguing that that things like religion can have those kinds of transformative effects on the human condition.
No.
But you just don't think it's miraculous in any sense, per se.
I don't.
Or proof of deity also in any sense, right?
Exactly. Yep. And I guess maybe that's...
I got it right.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that's just down to me being a skeptic or something, or maybe having the lack of the ability to have those things myself. And certainly I will say I don't have a frame of reference with which to identify, right? I've not ever had any kind of spiritual or real UFO experience, right? So, and in both of those cases, I really can't identify, right? It's just me that I'm saying this is how I feel. But yeah, I mean, I'd say that that's accurate and stuff. And
I would sarcastically say that I'm at a point, and I'm glib, and I'm going to get shit for this too, right? But that I'm at a point where I don't really want to talk to any more of the messengers. I've heard all the messengers. I've heard all the messages. And I don't believe any of you bitches, right?
I still do.
I actually want to talk to, now I'm past that. Now I just want to talk to the source, or I don't want to talk to anybody at all.
Yeah, see, that's how I am with the science sometimes. But with the religion, I'm still open to hearing everybody's cosmology of the religion, right? Like, I'm still fascinated that everybody's got a different take on something. Like, I don't think I've ever talked to any Christians that have agreed, unless they were in the same, the same church.
Oh, right. Whatever, even amongst themselves.
Sometimes then
there's
even
tremendous,
so.
There's tremendous disparity.
Yeah.
But having said all of that, though, again, I wouldn't find sitting down with somebody that's, like I said, when I don't want to be proselytized to about my soul anymore. I'm good. I'm done with all of that, right? But if I got the chance to sit down with somebody like the Dalai Lama or somebody of any significant religion and had the chance to just hear them explain their beliefs and their love for the religion, I wouldn't have a problem with that at all. Sure. Like, I would enjoy the hell out of that.
Just looking for a little more coherence and authority.
But don't expect me to walk out of it with any kind of profound new belief system just because I had that conversation with somebody.
I did consider becoming religious about 4 years ago. I gave it serious thought, and it was a toss-up between Methodist and Judaism.
Okay.
Like Orthodox Judaism, where you have to go to the classes and eventually get a paper. And
Okay.
Like full conversion sort of a thing.
Okay.
But I didn't.
But you didn't, huh?
I didn't.
Instead, you became a historian.
Instead, that's true. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's what happened.
It's probably taking you a lot more work, depending on which religion you pick.
Well, I didn't become...
Some of them, if you show up, it's like, you're in.
We need people.
Yeah, just please come.
Yeah.
But others, they have a much more strict...
The Pope just got rid of pontific secrecy, which is where the priests have to keep quiet about things going on in the priesthood.
Oh, okay. They're allowed to rat on each other now, kind of thing. Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It is. That's. I didn't. Okay, so I guess at some level, I didn't really realize that was a thing.
Yeah, see, that's the thing I find interesting was that there was even a phrase called pontific secrecy. Pontific secrecy. Like I'm like, oh yeah, I know what that is, but I haven't heard anybody talk about that since I had my Reformation class. Oh yeah, I guess that's why they don't talk. You know, like it didn't really hit
sense,
modern day. Yeah, until I heard them
like
talking about
puzzle comes together.
Yeah.
A little bit. Not allowed ratting. Snitches get stitches.
Right. Well, there have been times in the papal history that they actually were gunning for each other and popes killed each other.
Well, it's a tremendously powerful position, especially depending on which period or era of time you're talking about. It was the authority in the world, right?
Yeah. Well, there's
right
three,
about that?
Religiously speaking, and sometimes even politically. At one point, there was 3 popes vying for power.
Oh, right. Cage match, man.
Yeah.
Let's get it on.
They were sending like people to go take the other one out. It was like mafia wars for popes.
It's brutal, huh?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. All pretenses dropped. Someone's going to come out on top.
Well, I'm glad we discussed papal cage matches as we approach this wonderful holiday season of
I'm sorry,
Christmas
I forget about
and
Christmas. It's right around the corner, isn't it?
Their savior and everything.
For a secular guy like me, you forget about those holidays sometimes.
Well, why don't we wrap up there before Santa doesn't bring us shit for being naughty list boys. I don't know, maybe I prefer to be there, I guess. At least I'm there by
All I know
choice.
is that most kids are not anywhere near as upset when they find out that Jesus Christ isn't real as they find out when Santa Claus isn't real.
Okay. Merry Christmas.
I'm just saying, Santa Claus is important to those kids.
I know. Wait a minute. Yeah. Well, maybe. Ooh, boy, we can start a big. Let's wrap up there.
Okay.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
If you know, I'll go somewhere deeper and worse.
Check us out at www.noshitcast.com. It's KNOWSHITCAST.com. Make sure you hit those like and subscribe buttons. Thanks, Dan W., for basically giving us an entire show worth of material to talk about tonight. It was fantastic, and I can't wait to see his comments on this.
He'll say get rid of that Eric, dude.
No, I don't know about that, man.
He's full of shit.
He's full of shit. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll catch y'all next time. Bye.